Great. Thanks, Jen, and thank you to the Project Management Community Group Steering Committee and everyone for inviting me to come talk with you today. We are also doing this handy dandy cool Zoom feature, which we just discovered, and so please somebody shout if that goes awry. Let's make sure that's all up there and working. Wonderful. Okay. So yeah, this was originally given as part of the Educause Online as a Sign You Live, where it was given as a pre-recorded video. And then I was there and we had chat and conversation, and the constraints for that were such that this was like a 15-minute long video. And when they reached out and said, well, what do you think about doing this in this session? Also, we have an hour. And also this is a slide thing and not a pre-recorded video. Give me an opportunity to dust off some of the stuff in here. So even if you did see that video before, you'll see a lot of those same things and some new stuff. So we're gonna call this Comm Hacker, creative ways to reach our students, staff, and faculty. I am, as Jen mentioned, Chaz Grundy. I'm the Director of IT Strategy and Transformation at the University of Notre Dame. I've been here about 18 years and a lot of different kinds of things. And I find myself in a position where the communications reports up through me. And we have been working really hard to retool and work through our communications because, frankly, we struggle with a lot of these. So the first one is, the first hack here is the element of surprise. So we're going to start it through. I've got 6 hacks today. The original session had 5, so you get 1 bonus hack. I'm not going to charge you anything extra for that. This one right here, first off, if you don't know this guy, Seth Godin is a marketer. I always think it looks like John Preddy. So hi, John. This is your doppelganger. Seth Godin wrote, the sound of a small bell during a dark night is louder than the din of traffic outside your window during rush hour. Surprise and differentiation have far more impact than noise does. That surprise and differentiation, we have so many opportunities to do this, partly because the expectations are pretty low. We send lots of really boring communications a lot of times. We have tons of information, and if you work in IT in particular, man, we just are full of acronyms and technical stuff, and it's hard to do. And we sent an actual email out that was this was the email, and this was kind of the beginning of some of our journey. And how do we retool this in a way that is not putting our audiences to sleep? Because all of the stuff in there, I'm sure it's really important, but I don't think it got across to the people it needed to get to. So there are ways that we can make ideas more sticky. So ideas and things that we can do to make them a little bit more exciting, right? So account lifecycle policies. I mean, we're dealing with that stuff around Google and box storage things these days. I know a lot of you guys are as well. It's not sexy. Security updates, they're not fun, right? How do we get people fired up and engaged with our content so that they're actually taking, responding, that they're getting the information they need, and then they're taking action as needed. So I've got a few examples here. Steal all of these. Also, the slides available, the recording will be available, and then there is a resource document we'll share at the end that'll have even more stuff. This is when we after we rolled out our Google email to faculty and staff, we made custom candy bar wrappers. We bought Hershey's candy bars at the store, and then we printed our own custom wrappers. We glued them on and then handed them out and distributed them to all of the admins across the university. So this is an audience that we cared in particular about winning their goodwill. And so we wanted to get something across that would basically give them reassurance. So you're right, it says in case of emergency, follow instructions on the back. And then on the back, take a deep breath, eat the chocolate, call us for help. And we distributed all these and we got some good feedback on it. But my favorite was about 3 or 4 months later when a lady calls and says, hey, I was having a really bad day and I was getting very frustrated at my computer. Things weren't working the way I wanted. And so I punched my monitor. And I know I shouldn't have done that. I was like, okay, continue. She says, I punched the monitor. And then the monitors turned suddenly, just swiveled. And right behind it was this candy bar that you guys had given me. I'd forgotten all about it, but I looked at it and I picked it up and I turned it over, took a deep breath. I ate my chocolate and it just felt better. And then I called you guys and it was so helpful. It was all fine, but it just turned me around 180 degrees and it was so memorable. And so we've continued to do this periodically as a way to kind of stand out, and it's cheap and easy. Another one is how do you get around security awareness training? Some of you might have seen, we've done a lot of presenting about this over the last 2 years. In 2022, we we hosted a cybersecurity carnival. It was a series of games and activities intended to teach security concepts, password managers and password strength, and recognizing phishing and scams and things like that. And we did this as a one-day event, and it's just unlike any other kind of security training we've ever seen. It's not what our users are accustomed to. It stood out because it was different, the surprise, and then it was legitimately fun, right? And that was a way to engage people through this. We got a lot of stuff that we're going to talk around this, a lot of lessons around communications as well. One of the things we did in this carnival was that for marketing and for communications to try to drive awareness, we hired a bunch of students to dress up as clowns. These are security clowns, and each one of them had a t-shirt on it with some other security thing, like, you know, my dog's name is my password, or my phone's passcode is 1234. And then we had them all come around to try to drive it, you know, get attention, and promote the carnival that was coming up. Later on, we had the same students dress up as cops, cybersecurity cops, and they walked around and they would ask people like, hey, what's your mother's maiden name? And you'd be like, oh, I'm not telling you that. Like, excellent instincts. Here's a prize. It's a free ticket to the cybersecurity carnival. And if you said, well, my mother's name is Robertson, they're like, oh, no, I should never tell somebody that. Here, I got to write you up. I need you to go to the cybersecurity carnival. It was a nice little marketing thing, and it was kind of fun. These are all student actors that we had hired actually to be part of the carnival. We had a whole show and everything put in there, but the walking around handing out tickets, they left some of them on people's cars, and we got a lot of positive feedback on this. I did talk to Notre Dame Security and Police Department before we did this. Just for obvious reasons, don't walk around pretending to be cops and writing people tickets. So they were cool with the way we did this. Another one for getting people more effective with using some of the tools. So as a Google, campus, trying to get better use of Google Docs, Sheets, Slides, how to use the tools we have. You think about how many people are using Microsoft Office tools, but really aren't doing anything beyond what you could do out of a web browser, O365 or Google Productivity Suite. So we launched the Google First Wizarding College, and the idea here was to introduce people to simple concepts and then get more advanced. We had 7 different levels. We created all these little characters. You had these little wizarding characters. None of them are trademarked characters. None of them are licensed from anybody. That is not Harry. We also have not Hermione and not Ron as characters. Don't tell general counsel that. And then each one of these was a task, and all those tasks led to some wizardy, magic-y kind of task that you could do in Google. But the whole concept of taking some theme like wizarding school and applying it to training for Google was really well received, and we ended up with over 500 people completed all 7 levels during that first pass of that. We had a little graduation thing. Another example of standing out is something that caught people by surprise. Campus Safety held their Zombie Preparedness Festival, because if you're prepared for zombies, you're prepared for any emergency. This is something that UNC Chapel Hill, University of North Carolina had done, and some other schools. I think Michigan was doing another a version of this as well. We did this last year. It was a big hit. A lot of people, this is the chief of police, Carrie K. Shibata, dressed up as a zombie. One of our IT project managers, Kevin Strite, ended up on the news here in his zombie makeup. Pretty gory, horrific stuff. They had a blast. People, hundreds and hundreds of people were out there at any given time. So that's the idea of catching people unexpectedly, right? How do I stand out? What can I do to cut through the noise and the typical traditional boring communications we have? Lots of words, walls of text. We can get more visual, we can do something more creative, and we can tie it back as appropriate to the theme, the content that we're using. Our next hack, meet them where they are. There's no sense in presenting to an empty auditorium, no sense in going out there and putting a billboard up in the rural route where nobody drives anyway, right? You want to be where people are. It's one of the fundamental parts of marketing and communications. You have to meet your audience where they are, and that's psychologically and literally, right? We have a lot of places we can tailor our messages to our audience. So what do they need to hear? What is in it for them? The with them, right? What's in it for me? and adapting our tone and our voice to resonate with them. But also, a lot of it is just being able to tap into, and the hack here is how do we tap into underutilized places where people already are, but we're not using as a messaging channel. So let me give you this example, right? This one got a lot of attention, and there have been a bunch of other examples here, but a Girl Scout sold 300 boxes of Girl Scout cookies outside of a marijuana shop in California. You couldn't imagine a better setup for somebody raking in tons and tons of sales in the right place at the right time, meeting her audience where they were. But in our case, sometimes that looks like, in our campuses, looks like piggybacking, right? So we have back to school events or health fairs or new employee orientation pieces, new students, admitted students fairs. IT tries to show up at these. Okay, so we have a benefits fair, IT can be there. And we can use that as an opportunity to link, say, security and health and wellness together and present it as this is a way to be, this is your security health or your security hygiene. We have a lot of opportunities to have tables and booths at events so that we can be out there and helping people and put our message out there. And a lot of times this might be specific to a project or it could be very general. When we did our Going Google project, we went to the staff picnic and we worked with HR that was hosting this big annual staff picnic. We always did this in the summer and said, you're gonna have all of our audience here. Can we do something? And so we built a balloon arch, had a bunch of balls and balloons, and we had little swag things, and we were there as a presence, not why they were there, but it was an opportunity to add our messaging on top of another piece. And the visibility was really well received. These are just random folks on campus who grabbed the little We're Going Google balls and posed for pictures. I have not seen this done, and I'm wondering why not. This is our login page. We use Okta for Notre Dame. There's, we've got Duke and I think it was Stanford and Yale and Harvard and all these others, and University of Chicago. I grabbed a handful right here. All these login pages are places people hit on a regular basis. Almost everybody is going to hit our login page, our authentication page, at least once a day to log in. And this could be an opportunity to inject messaging, communications, marketing. It's not why they're there. It's like a billboard. Nobody's going to see a billboard. You're driving by, you're going somewhere else, and en route, maybe I can capture a little bit of your attention. Digital signs work this way by and large, right? I'm not standing in the hallway watching all the digital signs usually. I'm walking by, I glance over, I see something that catches my attention, and now maybe I can go and engage with that. So I think that the login page is a good opportunity that's really not been tapped very well. I will say that from a governance standpoint, who controls what messages go into that page, how those get managed, what things should or shouldn't be in that page is one of the reasons we have not pursued it any further here, but it's another opportunity. Likewise, we have used our desktop backgrounds that we push in the managed computer labs, classroom machines, things like that, stuff where IT controls the image. We can push those backgrounds. We have custom backgrounds that are nice, but we have also sometimes swapped those out with event-specific or change-specific changes. So that cybersecurity carnival was the desktop background on thousands of devices across the campus for the 2 weeks leading up to the event. So we could drive awareness. Another way you can do this, literally, physically, meeting them where they are, is you can buy Google ads or Facebook ads or whatever social media advertising, and you can use geofencing to define where you want those ads to show. So let's say we're going to flood the region around Notre Dame for certain things like, how do I set up my email? Or how do I configure Gmail? Or how do I log into, or whatever, right? So some of those kinds of things, or it could be change specific, passwords, certain services, and we can inject our ads into the people who are actually physically nearby. Another way to think about this, and you could use in communications, not specific to IT, but let's say you've got a really big story you're trying to push for your university about the work you're doing in a certain area. You could use geofencing and geotargeting to deliver ads around that for your university at, say, a conference happening out in Las Vegas. So everybody in Las Vegas who's going to this conference searching for certain things would see ads relevant to your organization. Really nice way to supplement the things we're using. Hack 3, amplifiers. We are one voice Sometimes we're multiple voices, but we're just one voice in the crowd, in the din, all of the noise, the signal and the noise. How do I make my signal louder? How do I make it get across to the people I need? So I'm going to introduce this concept that maybe you guys haven't thought about using in the context of IT, which is influencers. So if I say influencers, I'm guessing a lot of you just had your stomach twinge and you all cringed a little bit. And you're like, ah, because it's kind of got a generally negative kind of connotation these days, right? Entitled and cranky and demanding and all that kind of stuff.
Listen, we need to have a talk about Vanderhoff. The fact is, he's the sponsor. And you signed a contract guaranteeing him certain concessions, one of them being a spot on the show.
Well, that's where I see things just a little differently. Contract or no, I will not bow to any sponsor.
I'm sorry you feel that way, but basically it's the nature of the beast.
Maybe I'm wrong on this one, but for me, the beast doesn't include selling out. Garth, you know what I'm talking about, right?
It's like people only do things because they get paid. And that's just really sad.
I can't talk about it anymore. It's giving me a headache.
Here, take 2 of these.
Ah, new print. Little, yellow, different.
Look, you can stay here in the big leagues and play by the rules, or you can go back to the farm club in Aurora. It's your choice.
Yes, and it's the choice of a new generation.
So the idea with this, with what we're talking about here is really tapping into people who have already built the audience that we want to reach and leaning on their credibility and their established reach, their audience, their brand, all of those, the messaging, and finding partnerships that help us get our message out to a broader audience than we would possibly reach on our own. One of the folks who works on my team came from an ad agency. She ran the influencer marketing division and has taught us a lot about how we can utilize influencer marketing to push our stuff out. So who on your campus has a great following? Who are the people in social media, for instance, that all the students follow? And you'll note on the left, our IT Instagram has 193 followers. We're actually down. We've been losing followers because we're IT. But the student government has 3,200 followers, and that's better than we have. And they have a lot of great content, and they post all kinds of different things. So we've partnered with student government to help amplify our messages. Sometimes it's a matter of reposting what we post. Sometimes it's a matter of putting something specific from them. We have our own campus celebrities. You probably all do as well. Maybe they're a faculty member or a coach or some administrator, somebody who's beloved. We have Father Pete, who is one of our Holy Cross priests. Notre Dame's a Catholic school. One of our priests, Father Pete, is the chaplain for some of the sports teams. He's a rabid basketball fan. He shows up at the basketball games. The students love him. He's got a following on social media. He'd be a great partner for us to talk with about helping to amplify. Let's say Cybersecurity Awareness Month is coming up in October, and we say we're going to work with some of the most influential folks, and their voices will reach their audiences better than if it came from us. And that's really what influencer marketing is all about. Now, in the commercial world, that means paying an influencer and then working with them to partner together in a mutually beneficial deal. In our case, probably not going to pay Father Pete or student government. We're going to reach out and partner because we're all colleagues and peers and working together. Hack number 4, bust the myths. We all have a lot of myths. We have a lot of things that we believe. It's always been that way. This is just how it is, right? And you go by a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, and those myths can become facts. They become truths, unassailable truths in our heads. Because, right, students, they don't read email. Wrong. That's a myth. Students do read email, and we have tons and tons and tons of data to back it up. 82% average open rate for our emails to students. We're getting a fantastic open rate. Our engagement levels, a little lower, but we are getting the open rates, we're getting those views. We did a study with a bunch of students. I actually had a student project management class that I worked with. who did research to analyze and talk with students to analyze our IT communications and figure out what are some ways we can improve this. And our student community wanted more targeted emails. They wanted them to be shorter and less wordy. They'd like it to be more visual and graphic heavy. They wanted action. Don't send me a, hey, just a heads up. Like, what do I need to do? Let's get to the point. Tell me what I need to do. And they wanted informative subject lines, because even if they don't open the email, they're always reading those subject lines. And they said, I don't always open those emails, but I'll glance at them. And if the subject line looks like something I need to care about, then I open it up. We're going to get into all of that stuff in a little more detail later. Now, even though students will read emails, it doesn't mean they're going to respond to your emails. If you have a kid in high school or college, you know that just because you send them a text or an email doesn't mean they're going to respond to you and acknowledge, and I can't fix that. But our students aren't following us on social media. And when we ask them, where do you get your information? Where do you get your news? Where do you find out about stuff? They said social media is their number one place to get news. And I said, how many social media accounts do you follow that are run by the university? And they said, oh, no, like none. They follow student government, or they follow other, a handful of other kind of celebrities, but they're not following IT, and they don't really have an interest in that. And that's not the kind of content they're looking for in their social media feeds. So the feedback we got from them was, yeah, social media is our preference, but not for this kind of thing. Email's the best bet, is what we heard back from our students. If you ever talk to your students about who does or doesn't read email, they will also say that faculty don't read email because they email their faculty and don't always get responses. So that's another fun one. But it does lead us to the second myth, which is that faculty don't pay attention this summer. Have any of you guys heard that before? Like, faculty, they disappear. As soon as grades are turned in, boom, they're gone. You're not going to hear from them again until August or whatever. This is also a myth. We have done a lot of work around these as well. Faculty don't disengage. Faculty just shift their priorities and focus, by and large. So we have 9-month folks who really do disengage for the most part, but it's also their job, and they do pay attention, and they pay attention to the things that are important. The feedback we've gotten from faculty is, yeah, like, keep it short and sweet. I don't have time to go through all these things, because 57 hours per week on average that faculty members spend teaching, grading, reading. In addition, a lot of research. Sometimes researchers who are carrying a heavy teaching and research load are struggling, and those numbers can even look low to them. So every time we send them something, give them another task, have a class they have to attend, that's another chunk of time that they're going to be spending that's not spent with their kids and their families and the things that they care about. 121 emails received daily on average. This is just an average professional stat. So professionals on average receive 121 emails every single day, which is hard to maintain and hard to keep up with. And you have one day of being sick or one day being really busy on something else, and now you've got another 200 or 300 emails to go through the next time you get in. We all know that feeling, and probably most of us in this session are getting a lot, maybe even more than that. I don't know, but all of that goes into why they may or may not have engaged or paid attention. However, when we did our Going Google project, one of the things we needed from our faculty was we were worried, because we did our go live in June after faculty were already gone. So we were worried we were going to have a whole bunch of faculty who suddenly can't do email because we changed email when they were away, and that they're going to come back in August and we're going to have a whole bunch of support and unhappy people. And we were wrong, because at the end of the June 17th go live, on the 18th, 83% of faculty had already gone ahead and set up their own email without our help, by and large, and they'd been reading these messages, they were engaging and responding, and we were tracking the opens and the engagement. And then 83% had already done the configuration on that first day, which was fantastic. By the time we got to August and had a whole army of support folks around, we were twiddling our thumbs because the faculty said, we got it, we figured it out, we didn't need it. Like, we gave them all the stuff they needed to be successful before then. So they will engage and pay attention when it matters. Faculty are all old white men. This is one of my favorites. This is plain myth, right? I think there's an idea in our heads when you talk about communicating with faculty or doing a change with faculty, that they're all stuck in the mud, grumpy, who moved my cheese, old white guy that won't change for anything. But the truth is, the average age of a faculty member in higher ed is 46 years old. right? You graduate from undergrad. Let's say you're 21 when you graduated from undergrad. You went into a PhD program. You graduate with your PhD and you're 26, 27 years old. You get a job, a tenure track position, or wherever you're working. You're 29, 30 years old. You're using advanced technologies. You're using cutting edge stuff. You want to push the envelope. You don't want to teach the way that your 72-year-old, professor taught. And so the world has moved, but we're teaching to the slowest kids in the class, right? We're assuming everybody's that old white man who does things a certain way, but that's not the makeup, the demographics of our faculty typically. 49% of our faculty are women, and 34% of them Black, Indigenous, people of color. We have a lot of other kinds of faculty. They're not all old white men. They are lots of different kinds of people. And we have to be able to segment our audiences and think, you have your cutting edge, your early adopter, your fearless innovator who wants to do something in the classroom. And you have the person who's been teaching this the same way for the last 40 years. Both of those exist. But if we do only try to take care of your guy that's been doing this for 40 years the same way, we're going to be alienating and underserving the people who are trying to innovate and change. Measure, rinse, repeat. Hack 5, data, metrics. Data is your friend. That's what we need to remember. Data is your friend. Hi, data. Let's say one of these hacks is I've got two different tools I'm going to talk about here. One tool is the A/B test. If you're unfamiliar with this in communications, this is where we have, say, two versions of the same message. Let's say it's just two of the exact same message, but with two different headlines. We're going to test the subject lines. I'm going to take 10% of my audience and I'm going to send them version A. And I'm going to take the second version and I'm going to send that to another 10%. And we're going to give it, say, 4 hours or 6 hours or so. And we're going to wait and see which one performs better. In this case, option A had a 54% open rate, but option B, 77%. That subject line made a big difference, right? That's a pretty big shift. So the other 80% of folks are going to get version B. And this is a way that we can try multiple things and test them out. In higher ed, we struggle with consensus, don't we? In higher ed, a 30-to-1 vote is a tie. The problem is everybody's got opinions. They're not necessarily wrong. People have different ideas of what will or will not work. We're often, I'm in the Midwest, so we call it Midwest nice or Notre Dame nice, right? That I just don't want to create conflict. So here's a way that you can actually use data to solve these things, because you guys have all heard the term HIPPO, highest paid person's opinion. In the absence of data, the highest paid person's opinion wins. They'll just overrule it. If I have data to show this, that actually subject line B is a much stronger subject line, then I'm not arguing about my opinion versus your opinion or my instincts or your instincts, and I'm not having to use my business card to compete against your business card. We're just on the same side saying, let's set up an experiment and try this. Academics respect this approach a lot more than listening to some administrator in the IT building who's saying, I've been doing this for forever, trust me, right? I think sometimes we can bolster our arguments with data. The next one is a little bit more complex, and as somebody who has been running a lot of the larger campaign types of things, or projects with lots of communications in them, we have started to measure the effectiveness of those, because one, we're all really busy, and if we could stop doing stuff, that would be amazing. Two, I want to know if this is working, let's do more, and if it's not working, let me do less of it or shift or pivot. So this is, let's say I'm launching a new service. I'm going to do emails, posters, digital signage, there's a website, all that kind of thing. We've got a new service we're going to launch. We want to market this heavily to the university. How do I know which of these things works best? How do I know how they got there? What if I could tell that they came from the digital sign and that performed really well and most people were learning about it from this? Or how do I know, does anybody even use QR codes? What about those clowns and cops? Like, did that do anything to help us land new people at the carnival? Did we drive any interest in that? What worked? How do we know? Step one, we're going to link to a web page, right? Like all this stuff is going to go somewhere. So I'm going to send you to a website, OIT, /services/new service, some URL. Like it's not a thing I'm probably going to put on a poster or digital sign because you're not going to want to type in a long URL. But it gets even longer if you start using tracking info. So a URL is made up of your host and then the path on the server. But you can also feed it other attributes, right? So there's a question mark, and then you have these parameters that we can inject into that URL that will tell the website something. In this case, I want to actually track and say, let's keep tabs on the campaign. And so every one of these links, we want to link it to something, and we're going to include a tag that says the campaign is the service launch. That the medium was the poster or website or email, something like that. I'm going to say the source is QR code. So now I'm going to say when this link is specific to a poster, the QR code on the poster for this service launch. If I put it all together, it gets to this even worse URL. Good luck typing that in if that's on a digital sign, right? You've got 7 seconds before the digital sign switches to the next thing. Nobody's going to do that. But I don't need you to type this in because I'm going to use a URL shortener. Many institutions have their own URL shorteners. Notre Dame has one. Our URL is go.nd.edu and then / whatever. And I can customize the / whatever. If you don't have one, there are lots of free ones out there, lots of other versions, bit.ly, tinyURL, those kinds of things. But what I've done is said bit.ly/new service will go to this URL, this long, crazy URL, but that URL specifically is for QR code on the poster for the service launch. This one. That's what this is about. This other URL or link that we're going to put in there so you can type it in, that's a different URL. And I'm going to build a different tracked URL, and I'm going to use a different shortened URL for each one of these different links. Each email might be different, each QR code could be different, and so on. Something easy for them to type in, but something that gives us the information we need to know so we can decide whether this was effective and worked. So I built a spreadsheet because we're in IT, we do spreadsheets, right? Here's a spreadsheet that is a builder to make these things. So let's give it a base URL. I'm going to name my campaign, and then all of the different types of communications, every social, the sources that we want to track in there, if there's differences in content. So we had a couple versions of the digital sign. I wanted to see, does an animated digital sign work better or a static digital sign? So the digital sign, if it's moving, will that get people to react to it more than the ones that are just an image that sits still for 15 seconds? And then from those, it generates my tracking URL, which is all just different parameters. And then we went and created our short URLs, and we just tagged numbers on it for this one. Scam School 28 is all about the social post that we did on YouTube. Scam School 34 is a print piece where we had a life-size cutout of one of the characters, Casey, and the URL on that was Scam School 34. And the idea is that hopefully when somebody sees that and they type in go.nd.edu/Scam School 34, it ends up in our website, the same place all of the other things do as well, but now I know that they came from that cutout. Now what do I do with this? Now I come back and I look. And I say, okay, let's look at our security carnival, for instance. These are the results of our security carnival checking after 30 days. So we added a link onto the cybersecurity section of our website, even though the main website wasn't in the cybersecurity section. That one drove a lot of that kind of stuff, right? The Google First emails we had, yard signs that we put around. So if I want to know how these performed relative to my expectations, the clowns only got us 20 views. These students walked around and embarrassed the heck out of themselves. Humiliating job to work in college. They had fun. They were cracking up and loving it. But it didn't get us a lot of attention. People didn't go to the website. They didn't really engage. They didn't show up. So this was probably not something we would do again. But we had a lot of debate about yard signs. Do yard signs work? We have to print these things that can only really be out for like a day or two. We put them up the day before the carnival, and they were around for 24 hours before the event. Do they work? It's a lot of hassle to do them. Actually, they did. They got us 95 visits in that one day. 95 people saw them and paused long enough to do the QR code to get to our site. So do people use QR codes? Yes, we have data that shows they do. And the yard signs worked really well. Dressing college students up as clowns and then making them go abase themselves around campus was less effective, so we won't do that one again. But we do learn a lot of things about this that we can start to shift. And I don't have an answer on the animation one. That's in the other campaign, and I don't have that here. But I'm very curious, right? So will an animated sign work better? I think it will. So let's design tests to do these because data is your friend. This is going to take us to our 6th and final hack. This is our new one. Be smart, be brief. And this one comes from a book called Smart Brevity. It's by the guys that created Axios and Politico. Axios is their current company. They left Politico to found this. And they have an offering, a tool that helps with these things, and they do their own news stuff. But this book is a short and easy read. I got a copy of this a few months back. I read this, and then my whole team read this, and now I've been handing this around and becoming like this is like my new religion, right? And giving workshops and presentations to folks about this, because it's transforming the way that we communicate in such a positive way, not just from surprise and having data to form these and being clever with our channels, but the form and shape and the content of our communications is getting stronger as a result of this. So I will start by...
We are living in a world with way too many words. There are emails and articles and messages and meetings. Most of these things are too long. A lot of these things are totally irrelevant. Urgent updates, business news, the stuff that we need to do our jobs is getting lost. Smart brevity is how we break through. But what is smart brevity? Well, it's a communication style built on brain science that helps you speak and write more clearly to engage staff and stakeholders. It comes down to 5 simple rules. Number 1, stop being selfish. Focus on your audience. Focus on what the reader needs rather than what you want to say. Number 2, grab their attention. Think about the most important thing you want them to know. Sum it up in 1 sentence, then say it first, always. Number 3, write like a human. It's a lot more engaging and authentic than jargon and SAT words. Number 4, stay scannable. Studies show that people don't like big blocks of text, so use short paragraphs, bolding, or bullets. This helps people get farther, faster. And last, stop when enough is enough. Use as few words as humanly possible. The greatest gift that you can give to yourself and others is time. If you do all this well, smart brevity sparks a shift. Fewer words go wasted and your voice breaks through with authority, because readers just want simplicity and transparency. That's why we built Smart.
All right, so the framework, you start with a strong muscular tease. This is your subject line. This is your headline. This is the thing to draw them in, right? We don't want to create clickbait. Clickbait is when if you're not familiar, clickbait is promising one thing and then not delivering on that, just to get them to click in, right? It's like, oh, lose weight easy with this one weird tip, and you click in and there's no tip and it wants you to buy some book or something like that. It's like, that's clickbait. I want to give you something strong that's going to draw you in. What will get you to open that email? So the student who told us that I don't usually read the emails, but I read all the subject lines. Now we're working on how do we tailor those subject lines to provide the information they need quickly, so that if they don't open the email, they at least get some of that content, or that it draws them in enough that they can't help but click. They have to click. They got to know what's inside, right? So this is where you can have some fun with it. Being creative, right? So subject lines, emojis, interesting action words, stuff that provokes a response. Notre Dame is deleting 34,000 Google Inbox accounts. That's a headline that makes me wonder, wait, are you deleting my account? And I click in and I find out that we have inactive accounts that you need to go do something to make sure you don't lose access to this stuff that's shared with you, because it's an account that's going away. And that's part of how we draw them in. The strong first sentence, let's just get out of the way. This is often known as bluff, bottom line up front. What's that most important thing they need to take away? Say that. Start with that, say it. Context. Zoom out. Let me know, like, why does this matter? What's important about this that I need to pay attention to it? And tell me a little bit about that. Keep it short, keep it brief, keep it smart, but give me a little context. If you say, hey, there's a new thing, okay, so now connect that to something that's relevant to me, that's like, this matters because X. We're rolling out Name Coach. We've been doing this for a little while. Name Coach is a tool that allows you to record your own voice, or your name, record you saying your name and pronouncing it for people, and then they can listen to how you pronounce your name. Practice, you can give phonetic spellings, things like that. And we've integrated it with some tools like Canvas, and then in our directory, and now we're pushing this even more broadly. okay, here's a tool, name coach, to record your name. Well, why it matters is because people deserve to be respected and have their name pronounced correctly. You deserve to have your name pronounced correctly. We're able to provide context and value. And then that last section there, the choice to learn more. This is something we're so struggle with. We're so bad at this usually. We want to put everything in there. A lot of what we do has a lot of nuance. What if you're in a Google account that shared this thing and that stuff, right? Well, how about your box data is there, but then you're sharing it with a student who did this? All the nuance, all of that detail only matters if you actually are going to do something with it, if it applies to you and if you care. So we can give you all that background. What about the whole, there's a committee and we did this and this has been going on for 2.5 years and all this background and context there, like that's fine, but that's not germane to this message in this moment necessarily. I can link to those things. I can link out, so I don't have to have it all live in this one email. This is the gift of keeping it short and giving them the choice to go deeper and learn more. So a couple of quick examples. So here's one of the examples that they showed in that video very briefly. Comes from the Axios website. So board of directors update, big long text heavy thing. Oh, there's 4 big paragraphs, a big wall of text. There's some really exciting stuff, growth opportunities and great reactions and things like that. Light our sales pipeline on fire. Like, it's energetic text. But that's all lost because I opened this up and it's like, oh, board of directors update. So first off, generic subject line, update on board of directors, like board of directors update. That's not informative, doesn't tell me anything. It doesn't inspire me to click on and open it. It's too general, right? Update on AI, doesn't really give you anything. New guidelines for using AI at our school. That's more specific, and I know I'm going to open this thing up, and that's something I'm interested in, but just general update might not be enough of a thing to get me in. What they did is they pulled this stuff out and said, why it matters, we can do these things. The real simple, strong opening. We stun the board of directors. Higher revenue here gives us this. We're highlighting new hires and partnerships, or pulling those things out, making it really scannable. So I can see the bold, I can see the bullets. I can jump in and see this and glance really quickly. How we did it, we tested. Blah, blah, blah. What's next, right? So you say the same things, you just do it in a lot fewer words and in a way that is a gift for your audience to quickly get there. So here's an example of one of ours as it applies to IT. A lot of security alerts these days, right? There's just probably at least once a week, we have something we need to communicate to somebody about some new vulnerability that came out. It's usually pretty urgent. The problem is, do any of you guys know what GitLab is? Do any of you run GitLab? If you don't, you're going to see this, and is this something you need to care about? So we've added into this framework. So what do you need to know? But the who is affected. So I know we get a lot of feedback on this. People who glance at this say, that's not me, and then they can just delete the email because it doesn't apply to them. They don't need it. The people who do need it, we want them to see this and immediately say, oh, yeah, that does apply to me. Hold on, and now I need to go deeper. And so the go deeper can be all of that information that we shared, or it could be links to the knowledge article, or to an announcement somewhere, those kinds of things. Here's one that's just one of our senior leaders sent an email about name coach to our department. This is an early one, and he was saying, I liked what I saw with the smart brevity emails you guys have started doing. So he wrote his email in that format and then used that to communicate. Really great feedback on these as well. You want to get more, you can do these things. You can see this is kind of a blend. This isn't the informal style, the creative style that you see in some of the others from Smart Brevity, not the we wowed our board. It's a little bit more tone appropriate for how we are communicating into the audience. So we put together a template. This is a Google Doc, and I've shared this. It's publicly available, and this will give you access to something that looks like this. And these guys will be little drop downs. Really quick, easy way to get started with one of these. So I just start with these every time. I change these as needed, update them, and gives me a little bit of a framework to do it. I've even created a custom building block. So if you are also a Google school, creating custom building blocks allow you to make little text snippets, templates that you can insert into a document very easily. So that should be that should be a useful way to do that if you find that's useful. To wrap that part up, I give you permission. Actually, I can't give you permission. You can give yourself permission. We set our own expectations for how we should communicate, how quickly we need to communicate, the language or tone, the expectations of these. If I want to communicate to deans, I feel like I need to say all this flowery stuff. I'm gonna send this thing to a bunch of deans, and I need to give a bunch of preamble, and they're like the busiest people at the university. They're the ones who need smart brevity more than anything. So you all have your own permission to be creative, to try these, to send shorter messages, to do this stuff, link to more information instead of putting it all in our email, to use simpler words. IT people like to use the word utilize when really the word use is the same thing. It use instead of utilize. And I just keep catching all these examples where we fluff up our words to make them sound bigger, more important. The reality is we can be shorter and sweeter. And try it. Learn, try it again, keep doing that. Because I think you will find that people appreciate it. You'll get positive feedback on these, not the feedback, hey, that sounds really unprofessional. Now, I will say, don't do unprofessional things, right? Like, don't put an inappropriate GIF into your email, or GIF if you pronounce it that way. Don't be stupid, but you can also scale it back and try it. Maybe take baby steps. Our 6 hacks for today: the element of surprise, catching people in places they didn't expect, using content or styles or themes in ways that reach through to them because it surprises them. Meeting them where they are, finding those opportunities to put your messages in front of folks in the course of their day-to-day life without as much of a disruption and more of a catching them where they already are going. Using amplifiers to push your messages out by taking advantage of other folks who are more influential or have access to the audiences you need. Busting your myths, challenging the misconceptions, the traditional beliefs of what does and doesn't work and what can or cannot work. Using those, busting them by measuring and using data, and that means measuring, rinsing, repeat. So using things like A/B tests or campaign tracking, URL tracking to find out, and then being smart, being brief, just cleaning up those communications can come across. So when you have all of these working together, you're hitting your faculty, your staff, your students, your visitors, your alumni, your donors, all of those folks so much more clearly, so much more easily, and more effectively. So I want to wrap up. There's a link to a document that has lots of links and other resources and tools at bit.ly/commhackernotes. My website's chazgrunny.com, and I would be remiss if I didn't take this opportunity to also plug the road trip project management game that I designed and produced in my little side gig, Hedgehog Interactive. I've done this at Educause a few times. I know some folks have played that, but if you're interested in that, it's a training game, like a workshop in a box. You can check that out at Hedgehog Interactive. All right, and with that, does anybody have any questions? Now would be a fantastic time to ask questions or provide feedback or argue with me about all the things I just said, if you would like to do so.
Alex, I saw your chat message there, your thought about whether or not with the clowns, what happened with that low number. I know on campus, when we've done fun things like that, we found that there's much more communication and engagement with the students and less promotion of the original intent that we were there for in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if that's just a general observation, or maybe that's what was at play in your scenario as well. It's good for having fun and engagement with campus just to build that sort of like community and have fun, but we tend to veer off of what we were originally there for in the first place and focusing on that message. We've
suffered from that as well. It can be very tempting to head down a path because it's engaging and interesting and fun, but you're constantly trying to keep it tied to the original core reason you were doing it, the message that you needed to get across, or the change, or the learning objective.
Yep.
So, yeah. I usually call that, there are a couple, I have a whole thing about games-based learning and using this kind of creative engagement for these. There's a concept of chocolate-covered broccoli, where you can't just take something boring like security awareness training and then suddenly add some chocolate on top and say, look, it's fun, right? So we we could also have gone and just created a really fun carnival that didn't accomplish any of the goals. In our case, what we did was we had to design it so that hand in hand was both fun and hitting our objectives all along the way and not losing sight of either one of them. So if it gets too dry, it's not going to work. And if it gets too fun, it's not going to be effective. So
So I have a real quick question. Would you be able to like just maybe give an example of how you would use some of this gamifying of the communication within like a project team? So we did talk about how to touch the staff and the students and faculty, but I would be interested to just hear like maybe one idea of like how you could talk to like your staff, internal staff.
yeah. I mean, so the first one of those that I did that kind of led me down this path and actually ended up resulting in me creating this little side company was our Google Apps Jedi Academy. We were we chose to go Google. We were moving to cloud email. We decided it was 2013, did all this analysis, all this work, and then we chose we're going to go into Google. And step one is we really need to get our IT staff on board, get them prepared, get them to get trained up how to support this. At the time, my boss and dear friend Katie Rose had she did the last email migration project back in 2007 when we moved all those same folks into Exchange, and she warned me and said, I gotta tell you, like, you're not gonna get a lot of help from the IT staff on campus. Like all of our own internal people or distributed people, like they're not gonna go to the trainings. They're not gonna invest in these things. What we've seen time and time again is they're busy. This is all a bunch of extra stuff. You're changing their world and now they have to fix it and change and support other people in this at the same time. And, they're the ones who are going to be commiserating with the, end users and then blaming us, right? And say, oh, well, they're doing it to us too. And I said, okay, well, cool, challenge accepted. And we designed the Jedi Academy as a way to try to train. There are roughly 80 people we had targeted. We want to make these folks like really up to speed. And we designed the Google Apps Jedi Academy so you could start by doing, you were a Padawan, Jedi Knight, Jedi Master, or you could achieve the Yoda level. And we had little characters and all that stuff. We designed this whole program. We had ceremony, we had lightsabers. One of my coworkers, she was really into Star Wars and did a lot of cosplay stuff. And so I asked her if she had any Star Wars costumes. She's like, yes, I do. I said, what do you have? She says, I have a Leia costume. I was like, cool, which one? Because there are some that I might want to use at work and some that I don't think we can use at work. And fortunately, she came in this really great like white, the white gown at the end of the first movie, and she did this opening ceremony as Princess Leia and inviting people because we were taking down the evil Microsoft Exchange empire, and the IT staff loved it. And in the end, those 80 people, we actually ended up with 305 people who became Yoda level people. We had folks non in IT who wanted to participate and did it because along the way you did all of this training stuff, and we used our LMS to facilitate it with leaderboards, people having contests and really getting into it. So the Star Wars theme wrapped around the training program engaged that audience because we're IT folks, right? And so Star Wars resonated with them in a really great way. But it wouldn't work for the same, that wouldn't necessarily work the same for a broader campus initiative where that's maybe a little too geeky for some or something like that. So hence the wizarding or some of the others that we've injected play and fun into. Another example of gamification in our context is when we roll out our knowledge base, one of the pieces we needed was to kind of let people level up so that they could get really comfortable with the tools and technology and the processes. So you had some rights and you got to come in and then you kind of leveled up, and they had this kind of D&D style wizarding and kind of like leaderboard where you could get different levels of until you could get to be like one of the wizards and knowledge wizard or something, and then you had more rights as you grew up in there. But that was another leaderboard type of approach. I could talk about the gamification stuff all day too. So any other?
I don't know, we might have to have you come back and do something along that line. That would sounds like fun.
It's always a blast.
We've got Yvonne says,
All right,
yes, please. Well, we are 3 minutes on the hour here, so probably want to go ahead. If there's one more question, maybe we can ask Chaz. Otherwise, we are going to wrap up the meeting. We do post again. We will post the recording as well as the materials for you to take a look at afterward if you missed anything. And definitely share it with some of your peers. I think I love getting these resources out in front of some of my colleagues, even at the University of Michigan. And we always find little nuggets of helpful tidbits of information that they can use for their projects. I think it's great that we can share that with them.
It's the best thing about higher ed is that, you call up your fiercest competitor and say, hey, Jen, what are you guys doing at Michigan? And then I can steal all of the stuff and I will just give you all the stuff I did too, right? We're so collaborative. Well, we
Heck
take each
yeah.
other. Yeah.
Any other last questions? Okay. Jess, thank you so much for doing that. I know I missed the session at Educause, so I'm really glad I got to check this out. I did see that you had that recording, like I mentioned, out on YouTube already. So I'm going to kind of poke through everything you got out there and see what else I can glean from it. It's been very helpful.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.